And it's February 4th, 9 o'clock, and we'll start this week's office hours for waste site cleanup. Thank you all for coming. Liz sends her regards. She's working on the reg revisions and decided to pass up this week's meeting to make more progress. My wife's company has instituted they only do it once a month. I think it would be a good idea to do it weekly. Meeting free days now. That it's so easy to schedule Zoom meetings that the last yesterday, certainly after being off for a couple of days, I found that I was here from 8:30 to about 5:20 on Zoom or team calls the entire day. So I think that would be a great idea, not to have just meeting free days that the entire organization decides we're not going to have meetings. So think about it. Everybody should adopt that.
My wife's company has instituted meeting-free Wednesday mornings, and she serves on an outside board that has their meetings Wednesday mornings.
Yeah, there's only so much that you can control, I guess. But she can't move her meeting-free day to Thursdays. So a couple things. Speaking of meetings, we are going to hold an advisory committee meeting this month. So on Thursday, I think it's the 24th, a couple of weeks from now, instead of office hours, we'll hold a more formal advisory committee meeting. We have several.
Thursday's the 25th, Paul, just so you know. It's the
Okay.
25th.
Okay, Thursday the 25th. Thank you, Ken. I was going to pull up my calendar, but whatever the Thursday is, the 25th, we'll have a full advisory committee meeting, and one of the things on the agenda will be the kind of potential for restructuring the advisory committee and kind of looking to increase representation and diversity in the advisory committee. So have that as a formal agenda item. Hope to have a couple other, like up to 2 additional substantive agenda items to go into more detail, more to come as we finalize that and make sure all the pieces are in place. So we'll send out emails and advertisements and stuff like that for the meeting. But all you have to do is show up same time, same place. We'll probably use the same login information as well, just to make it easier on everybody.
So it's still 9 o'clock?
Still 9 o'clock.
Okay.
So it just may go on a little bit longer and we'll have more formal presentations for that. So that's one thing. One of the things that kept us in meetings yesterday, I want to touch base on. We meet annually with USEPA on emergency response and removal actions, just to kind of look back at the past year and look ahead to the coming year, which is always kind of interesting. So coming out of that, I thought I might share a couple things with you guys, because it's kind of generally interesting. So I excerpted a couple slides from their presentation. So one thing is just kind of the management updates for US EPA. As you might know, there was a change in administration at the federal level, which means the regional administrators have all left. Deb Zaro is acting regional administrator, which she has served in that role a couple times in the past, and she's doing it again. Everybody feels very comfortable in that. Brian Olson has been moved up to acting deputy regional administrator. And Brian, of course, comes out of the circular site cleanup emergency response world. So that created a hole there that had to be filled. So Karen McGuire is acting there. And Megan Cassidy is, and this is more permanent, I believe, Deputy Division Director for the Superfund and Emergency Management Division. So that's great news. We've been working closely with Megan in the past couple of years on a lot of the PFAS issues. So it's good to see her get that recognition. More specifically, yesterday we were meeting with Carol Tucker, who's the branch chief for the Emergency Preparedness and Response Branch, and her deputies, Bill Lovely and Ted Bizanis. Great folks, incredibly helpful for Massachusetts and the other New England states. You know, they work with them too, but we feel a certain pride in having them be based in Massachusetts and readily available, and they have been incredibly helpful over the years, and certainly in the past year, with particularly removal actions and emergency response actions. You know, some of the statistics, their hotline, their call-ins that they staff, they've had 319 for Massachusetts. They, along with Coast Guard, they work with DEP on oil spills and marine environment, and they have a couple ongoing cleanups there. Removal actions is a big thing for us, where there are not PRPs willing and able to do some work, and we're faced with complex sites of post-imminent hazards, where things like digging up large amounts of soil might be useful to eliminate or mitigate risks. EPA is often there to help and provide resources, not only the money and the contractors to do some of the work, but we've had their mobile lab come out, for example, down in Dartmouth at the Bliss Corner neighborhood, and just park there for long periods of time, running samples to get quick turnaround times for that. So a number of resources they bring to bear to us, and we're, it's great to have them here, great to have them helping, and it's one of the things that we can access in addition to our own resources and our own contractors, but it helps out a lot, particularly for the larger sites. So just a shout out to our EPA colleagues. And that's about all I have for updates. Like I was telling people earlier, I was away for a couple of days on vacation in beautiful Swampscott. So I'm still catching up on a bunch of emails and things. I guess there was an LSPA meeting recently, LSP board meeting, sorry. I was looking at Wendy, I was thinking LSP board meeting, and I believe there's another one coming up maybe next week, very quickly.
February 9th,
February 9th.
next Tuesday. Yep.
So that's good. If people want to participate in that, make sure you log in, sign in. I don't know, any questions you have, any updates, anything I need to follow up on that I haven't?
That's a dangerous question.
Well,
Keep reading your emails.
I'm working my way through the emails. That's the hard thing about actually taking some time off, where you leave your work phone not complete. I didn't leave it behind. That would have been too good, but intentionally not checking it very often and seeing the emails piling up. So there are things still to be followed up on from that. Yes, thank you, Ken. I take it to mean that Ken has some emails in my queue that I really need to get to and read.
There's one or two issues that might catch your eye.
Yeah.
Paul, just to throw it out there, the LSPA would still love to get our hands on those prior MCP copies.
Oh, yes. That actually is on a yellow sticky
Excellent.
right there.
Thank you.
And you know what the problem is? That I have so many yellow stickies that they begin to blend together and they no longer serve their purpose.
I hear
You're
that.
gonna have to upgrade that one to a pink
I
sticky.
know. Yeah. Well, yeah, I need different color stickies, I guess. I've moved that down onto my keyboard. So,
I think that when we used to meet in person many moons ago, you had said you had a you had a flash drive, whatever. And if
Yes.
you felt like you wanted to mail that, I don't know how easy that is to do, but you can mail it to the LSPA and I promise you, I can get it back to you.
well, a couple things. Yes, Wendy, that flash drive is around somewhere, but I think it's in my desk. at
Probably
the
in your
office.
office.
And
right?
what I had promised David is that I would take another flash drive, and of which I have a box. So getting the flash drive back is not
I know
the
that's
issue.
minor.
It's not the issue. It's making sure that the flash drive is combined with the sticky note, and,
Right.
and that the next thing I do when I log off this call is to log on to the VPN, which is another story, and download it from the network drive. So as you just saw, I've put those things on my keyboard.
We appreciate it.
Hopefully that means that in the half hour between the end of this meeting and the start of my next meeting, I don't get distracted by Ken's emails, and I do that.
Paul, this is Elliot. Will DEP be looking at the proposed Department of Revenue Brownfields Tax Credit regulations commented due on the 11th? And there's some concerning sections on verification of costs, which state, among other things, that just because a cost is incurred in compliance with the requirement of the MCP is not to be considered as for the purpose of achieving a permanent solution, or just because it was mentioned in a RAM plan is not a reason that it was incurred for purpose of attaining a permanent solution. So, I mean, that says you don't need to really comply with the provisions of the MCP, which seems to conflict with the opinions that we attest to on our forms. We request, this is 5F, I guess, verifications of costs. If you could take a look at what they're saying is consistent with what Bureau of Waste Site Cleanup thinks the MCP says.
Yeah, so I believe I addressed this last week, and the video was just put up yesterday.
Oh, I missed last week.
And
Sorry.
well, that's okay. And just to summarize, I think last week I was being very careful. And I will still try to be very careful in kind of what our roles, MassDEP's role is versus Department of Revenue's role. And DEP is not charged with the tax credit program, figuring out kind of what to give tax credits for and what not to. And there's a certain amount of program and policy decision making that has to go on that DOR through their statute and their authority is charged with. MassDEP certainly is charged with implementing the MCP. And to the extent that the programs overlap or are related, and they certainly are, we certainly are working with DOR to make sure that how and when they reference the MCP and talk about the MCP, that everybody is on the same level playing field, same understanding about what our terms mean, what our regulations say, and that it's they understand kind of what the rules are. But there is a kind of a policy aspect to this that DOR doesn't tell us how to clean up sites and how clean is clean and kind of what is required for a site cleanup, and we don't tell them where to draw the line about what is or is not a cost covered by the Department of Revenue regulations. I understand that their goal in this, which we support, is to make the whole process more transparent and to have clear rules about kind of what is and is not covered by the tax credit regulations, which is the point of having the regulations in place rather than relying upon kind of the statutory authority that they have in the past, and which I think is a good thing. And there was another point I was going to make: having clear rules, transparency. The other thing which I did find interesting about the regs, which I had not seen before, but Liz and I were talking about this the other day, the use of examples in regulations. I thought was very interesting. And Liz and I and others at DEP have been writing regulations for a long time, and it never occurred to us that having examples in the regulations might be a useful way of kind of describing things that are otherwise kind of sometimes difficult to express it so clearly. It was interesting to see from a professional reg writer's perspective. So we certainly had talked with DOR previous to the regs going out, and we'll likely continue talking with them again. Certainly answering any questions they have about how the MCP works and all of that. But I would try to separate the different mandates and policy goals from the different agencies, and try to stay in our lane, if you will. Having said that, you guys, of course, play in both lanes, and the LSPs and PRPs and everybody else. I would certainly encourage you, while the regs are still open for public comment, to look at them, to read them. When all of it is done, I would be interested in hearing your thoughts about the use of examples in regulations. I think as a concept, it would be interesting to talk about, but I'm personally going to avoid talking about specific proposals in DOR's regs. We'll stay in our lane, they stay in their lane. You guys can travel in both lanes. So I would encourage you to submit your comments.
Paul, I think what I understood to be Elliot's point was that by having there be this disconnect between the MCP requirements and what is DOR is willing to consider reimbursable, if you will, it creates from a public policy standpoint, it creates a disincentive for certain requirements of the MCP, which could lead to not achieving MassDEP's goals of getting things all cleaned up. I didn't say that very well, but I mean, again, if a PRP is looking at it and saying, well, this is reimbursable, okay, wait a minute, oh, this isn't reimbursable, I want you to, I'm going to be scrutinizing that very carefully, and there'd be temptation, not saying we give in to temptation, but temptation to cut corners or shortcut or do less maybe than there'd be more pressure on the environment LSP to can you cut the costs on this because it's not reimbursable? I think Elliot, am I wrong?
No,
The big issue
I hadn't thought of it
is
that
going to
way.
be to whether you go to background as opposed to no significant risk. Right. I think that's probably the biggest issue in there, I think.
Yeah, and I understand that DOR is, they certainly have examples specific to that, and I think that would certainly be an area that you might be interested in commenting on.
Oh, yes, we are. Thank you.
Yes. Been working on it.
Yep, and yep, I'm going to stop talking. I think we all understand
PFAS.
PFAS. We all
And then
understand
it's like
PFAS.
asbestos in soils. When in doubt, just go back to asbestos. in
That's
soils
good,
and
yeah.
PFAS.
It's almost worth going back to asbestos in soils that are get away. The whole tax credit stuff, money. I'd rather talk about PFAS and even asbestos in soil. Yeah, the
Wow,
PFAS stuff.
really?
PFAS stuff I know it's that bad. In a perfect world, there'd be enough money for everything. So, PFAS, I did participate, sit in on a meeting that we had with the Board of Health in, what town was that? Lakeville, the other day, in the beginning of the rollouts of the going town to town, talking about the PFAS-free sampling program for private wells. And always be careful when you use the term free. Because the initial samples, of course, is free. What happens afterwards when, and that's one of the reasons we're meeting with the Boards of Health.
First one.
To try to make clear kind of what the possible implications are should PFAS be found. So that was interesting. So that's beginning to roll out mostly in the Western and Southeast regions at the moment, is where we're putting a lot of our focus. And there should be postcards going out to prospective homeowners shortly in some of these towns. So we'll see how that goes, and that should begin giving us some interesting data on the presence of PFAS, unrelated to large public water supplies, unrelated to specific known sites that we have, and we're pretty excited to see what comes of it. So, and if there are, I think there's a website where you can express interest in having your private well sampled, if that's something you're interested in. And when we come to your town, then you might be selected. But so other than PFAS, and let's not go to asbestos in soil, anything else you may be interested in? Any interesting sites you're working on, site questions?
MCP revisions?
MCP revisions, the people who logged on early, I mentioned that you'll notice Liz Callahan is not here today because she's taking this time to get some quality quiet time to work on the MCP revisions. And we've been meeting weekly on some of the remaining issues, and are through subpart I into the later parts of the MCP, working pretty much chronologically. So it's coming close to an end. And she's trying to make good progress on that to speed it up. And also mention that there's a formal advisory committee meeting coming up at the end of the month on February 25th, if you joined us late.
I did.
So it will be same time here, 9 o'clock. We'll use the same login information. So if you forget it's an advisory committee and tune in for the office hours, it will still work.